Hi, it's Jack Sweeney. We're with Mark Tennant, president of REL, which has recently completed a study on working capital. Now, Mark, what can you tell us? What were some of the findings?
Well, basically, we've run this particular survey now for about 20 years. We've looked at the top 1,000 companies in the US, and we also cover Europe and the rest of the world. The study that we've just completed is actually just for the US. And this year we were surprised by some of the results. Surprised in that the annual results showed quite significant deterioration in the working capital ratios, particularly for receivables, day sales outstanding, and inventory outstanding. Although there was a slight increase or a slight improvement in days payables outstanding. The reason we were surprised is because during the latter part of 2009 we certainly got the sense that things were improving quite dramatically. So in order to better understand that, we actually for the first time did a quarterly analysis as well to back up our findings and look in more detail at how the numbers broke out. And what we saw was that within the year, we had the major detrimental effect of the initial recession that started in if you like, Q3 of 08. That continued into Q4 of 08 and even further into Q1 of 09. It really seemed to bottom out in Q1 of 09. So really during 2009 we were kind of working our way back from the depths of that recession. And so what we saw quarter on quarter were gradual improvements, and by the time we got to Q4 of 09 we were actually seeing quite substantial improvements quarter on quarter. But when you looked at it in the context of the year, so the year end of 08 versus the year end of 09, across the revenues and the business across the year, nevertheless 09 was worse, if you like, in terms of the relative working capital metrics to 08. So there were some surprises, but once we looked into the numbers in more detail, they were explained.
What do you think the study reveals about the future going forward here?
What we're seeing from the study and what we're seeing outside of the study with our clients and prospects is that we are seeing a continual recovery, albeit somewhat fragile, as we've recently encountered with Greece and other things. So we are seeing revenues continue to improve. We are seeing margins continue to improve, and those, in many ways, the biggest impact of the recession was just on the ability of companies to generate margin on their sales. Those are definitely continuing to improve. The ratio of, or the rate of improvement is starting to slow down, as we're now seeing inventory levels starting to build a little bit, receivables starting to go out a little bit. So really what we're seeing is a gradual sort of return, if you like, to normal state business. The predictions, if you like, or the concerns that we have is, we saw during 08, suddenly cash came to the very forefront of everybody's mind. We saw what happened to GM. We saw what happened to companies that really no one ever thought would ever have a cash problem. Suddenly, literally going into liquidation, going into Chapter 11. So no one was asking the question at the end of 08 and early 09. Why is cash important? Everyone got the message, and as a result of which, a lot of companies, if not every company, were really looking to manage working capital more effectively. Typically they were doing that through internal initiatives, edicts about the need to drive reductions in working capital issued out to their business units. In the majority of cases it kind of stopped there. There wasn't a holistic, all-encompassing program to manage working capital better across the enterprise. And so the concern that I would have right now is, unless a company has really embraced cash as a key driver of the business and embraced it to the extent that that's a core part of how the business is managed, not just within finance, but across the enterprise, including in sales, in procurement, in operations, that the danger is, as business picks up, we'll return, if you like, prematurely to normal business practice, where we're focusing on cost, revenue growth, margin, if you like, the P&L, and we're not really continuing to be mindful of cash. So we are definitely seeing companies investing in creating a much more structured sales and operations planning process. So really harmonizing the demand forecast across sales, operations, procurement, finance, so that everyone's on the same page and we're not having, if you like, discrepancies between aspirational forecasts coming out of sales being reinterpreted by manufacturing, being reinterpreted by procurement, and the materials management process being kind of a function of disarray. We're definitely seeing much tighter control there, which implemented in the appropriate way should help us ensure that we're really managing the procurement process, the materials management process, the production process in a much better manner, so that we're in closer step or more of a lockstep with true customer demand. And that should mean that for those companies that have made this kind of investment, that the danger of creating a large amount of excess working capital, particularly excess inventory, the danger of spending money on raw materials that aren't going to be utilised will reduce. So that's definitely, it's an established best practice. It's not an emerging best practice, but I think the proportion of companies that have really made that investment and done so in a formal manner has been increasing in the last 12 months.
Are there any consequences or risks associated with companies adopting these types?
There are definitely consequences. If you're within a supply chain, if you're the large, say, customer, then you will potentially be able to impose requirements on your suppliers that will cause them to potentially have to carry, if you like, your working capital. So one of the consequences or risks associated with the current situation is that as those organisations within a supply chain that have the leverage exert that leverage, that they will further squeeze cash within the supply chain. And typically that squeezing takes place with the smaller companies, who in some cases have weaker balance sheets and a higher cost of capital.
Mark Tennant, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.